We are reading from the Yogasutras. This is our Yoga class number 18. We were studying aphorism number 40 in this chapter, first chapter. And just let us remember that aphorism, that the yogi's mind, thus meditating, becomes unobstructed, unhindered from the minutest to the biggest. The great commentator Vyasa hints at this power, Vashikara. We were discussing on that as one of the significant achievements in spiritual life. Vashikara means the power, and we will discuss it further, over the mind. This quality has implication for all the 8 different methods of concentration that have been prescribed by Maharishi Patanjali. In each one of these methods, one needs Vashikara, the ability to keep the mind stable, calm and patient in all circumstances, from the smallest to the biggest. Do we have a test that our mind has gained Vashikara? Yes. Test number 1. The practicing yogi, himself or herself, will know that she or he has control over the mind. This is an experience by the yogi, herself or himself. This confidence helps one to accept any challenge or difficult work with ease. Grossly speaking, when you do not hesitate to take up the responsibility for solving any problem, you know that you have attained Vashikara. Such people may not be celebrities, but they are dependable, trustworthy, and hence they are useful. They have done justice to their existence as worthy human beings. Then the second test, that will be by others in the society. They will know that these yogis have achieved this Vashikara. They recognize the difference between what these yogis were before and what they have become now. They are no more impulsive or thoughtless, and they have infinite patience. One sure indication of Vashikara is patience. You have patience because your mind is under your control. You own your mind, not the other way around. And the third test is that this point we have to remember that this power does not come only to a yogi. It comes to anyone who is practicing spiritual life seriously, honestly and sincerely. It has to come. It is bound to come. On the other hand, it is the proof that you are serious, you are honest and sincere in your spiritual life. Even in any kind of our undertaking, we will see that this Vashikara will help us because it is patience. This aphorism speaks of the minutest and the biggest. Vashikara does not only mean that you remain steady in disturbing situations, big or small, Paramanu Mahat. But more importantly, it means that you have control over your own mind so that you are able to hold back your reactions, impulses, responses. Then only you are able to see the positive side of an incident. You have time, of an information or a feeling, etc. Like for example, when you feel angry, you will not lose yourself in that anger. You hold yourself back thinking that there might be a good side of this. You hold back your reaction. That means you become patient and think that if you get angry, you lose your love. You become impatient and so on. Also, when you are feeling jealousy or hatred, you do not allow yourself to be lost in that. If you lose yourself in that emotion, then you and nobody else, you become jealous, you become hateful, etc. You do not become a yogi, you do not become a devotee, you become angry, you become hateful, you become jealous. You change yourself. Now you have become hatred itself. You are jealousy itself, anger itself, like that. You may use such a tainted mind on your friends, near and dear ones. It is easy to lose friends, near and dear ones, because they are available at hand. The ability of our remaining unchanged in such circumstances is proof that we have control or vashikara over our mind in respect of dealing with very subtle things and very big things also. Similarly, the general method of abhyasa and vairagya is the only path of least resistance. Abhyasa means the practice of concentration on one object or goal, and vairagya means understanding the temporariness of other things. Concentration on one object or goal means keeping one ultimate goal in view in the midst of all so-called immediate and temporary goals. Well, before I move on to the next aphorism, let me at first give answer to a question of a serious listener. It was about the experience in deep sleep. We discussed about it last time. And this listener needed some more elaboration on this, our experiences in our deep sleep. I will very briefly recall the points from the last class and then add more information about it. This is a very difficult subject and it has not been dealt with so elaborately, extensively like one deals with the dream. There are many books on dreams, but deep sleep, how the scriptures have revealed the realities of the deep sleep, that is very fascinating. And that is a very big cornerstone of the whole edifice of Vedantic psychology. This is what we dealt with. Deep sleep is a state of condensed ignorance, which is a state of not knowing. That's what we generally understand. Then how do we have the experience of peace, a positive experience there? Or how do we have any experience there at all? We need to understand this mechanism. the scriptures say that in that state, or rather in that situation, also there are very subtle vrittis which are active. These vrittis are called Priyamoda and Pramoda. We discussed these vrittis elaborately last time. In the discussion of the Panchakosha or the five seeds, the Taittiriya Upanishad says that the outermost layer of our body is the gross body, Sthula Sarira. Then the next, this is called Annamaya Kosha, material layer. And inside that there is the subtle body, Sukshma Sarira, which is made of three consecutive layers. They are called Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha. And then we saw that the vital layer, the mental layer and the intellectual layers, they may make a combined kosha called Sukshma Sarira. And still interior to that is the causal body or Karana Sarira, which is made of the Anandamaya Kosha or bliss layer. In our Sushupti or deep sleep, we are in this causal body called Anandamaya Kosha, bliss sheath. Well, let us draw a conclusion to this doubt, whether experience is possible in the deep sleep. This is the fundamental truth, that ajnanam or ignorance is not the Atman. Hence it is not permanent, and therefore it is subject to change or decay. This change does not stop any moment. What to speak of it in the deep sleep? Any moment, constant change. We also know that ajnanam is constituted by three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. There will be a kind of endless tug of war action between the gunas themselves to maintain a balance in that state. So non-stop, undetectable and very, very subtle activity will be there in the condensed ajnanam. Even the ajnanam in the deep sleep state is not really a dissolved mass of ajnana. It is a condensed mass of ajnana. All the vrittis of the waking state and dream state are there in dormant form. They are not dissolved, losing their identities or forms or definitions. They are just waiting there to reappear when the deep sleep is gone. Right? Also please note that during deep sleep, the pranas are working in the body. The gross body is working because of its ceaseless changes. The blood circulation, respiratory system, nutritional activity, and such other varieties of things are active. The cells are dying, being created. The phenomenon of neural interactions in the brain during deep sleep is also a matter of serious scientific study. All the bodies and the states are products of this ignorance. Furthermore, the ever-awake conscious Atman does not go to sleep. That is why the ignorance in deep sleep is a confirmation of both knowing and not knowing. Atman is knowledge itself, and ajnanam has taken a condensed form of not knowing. So deep sleep is a confirmation of both knowing and not knowing. Our limited observation and analysis of our experiences do not know that knowledge can happen without the help of physical organs and the vrittis of the mind, and without the help of the states of waking and dreaming. Knowledge can happen. We have to remember that vrittis can take impression, but the act of knowing the impression happens by Atman in all the states. This act of knowing happens in conjunction with the vrittis, and it is then called an experience. Right? The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad deliberates on this concept in a celebrated discussion in chapter number 4, Brahmana number 3. It is called the Jyotir Brahmana, very famous Brahmana. Jyoti means the light or knowledge. It is a very illuminating study. Let me quote the relevant portion from it, so poetic and so sublime. Astamite aditye yajnavalkya chandramasi astamite shanti agnau shantayam vachi kim jyotihi eva ayam purusha heiti atma vasya jyotir bhavati atmana eva ayam jyotisha aste palyayate karma kurute vipalyeti iti. See what a beautiful confirmation. When the sun and the moon, the question is asked, when the sun and the moon have both set, the fire has gone out and the speech has stopped. O Yajnavalkya, the name of the Rishi, the saint, what exactly serves as the light or knowledge for a person? Means when we are in deep sleep, the ears cannot hear, eyes cannot see, the fire cannot illuminate, the sun, moon have lost their validity or their importance. Yajnavalkya answered, Atma vasya jyotir bhavati. The self serves as his or her light. It is through the light of the self that he or she sits, goes out, works and returns. It is a wonderful discovery here. In the deep sleep, when we are called prajna, sleeper, we are in the Anandamaya Kosha. This experience of Ananda or bliss or peace is natural to this Kosha or sheath. Even Sattva Guna, one of the constituents of Ajnanam or ignorance, which appears to be very quiet and peaceful, is incessantly and relentlessly active. A peaceful person is actually relentlessly active. Swami Vivekananda used the example of a dam to explain this invisible activity. The dam holds colossal weight and pressure of water. There is a constant pressure balancing action going on between the huge mass of water and the huge static counter force of the dam. But both of them look so calm and inactive outwardly. The balancing act is so subtle. Ati sukshma bhi ajnana vrittivhi, condensed form of that ignorance. Ati sukshma vrittis, priyamoda pramoda. The balancing act is so subtle. This is the understanding of the state in which the ajnana vrittis, Priya, Moda and Pramoda function. They are not like those usual vrittis that are frequently referred to in the Yogasutras. We have learnt about those vrittis in the very second aphorism of this chapter. Yogaha chitta vritti nirodha. These chitta vrittis are vrittis in the waking state. All the samadhis are about the waking state. That is why these vrittis are called very subtle vrittis of ajnanam. Ati sukshmabhihi ajnana vrittihi. Another point that escapes our understanding is that there is a samskara which is called vyuthana samskara. Vyuthana means waking up or coming out. This samskara of our Vishwahood or of the wakerhood remains dormant during samadhis and helps the individual to come out of it. This samskara, this impression, this pull, this force. In respect of the Sushupti also, our samskaras of waking or dreaming help us to wake up to the next state or to shift us between the states. Bhagavan Vyasa says in his commentary to the 50th aphorism in this chapter itself that Samadhi prajna prabhava samskara vyuthana samskara asayam badhate. Samskara asayam badhate. The waking up samskaras, the impressions which are there in us, which help us to wake up, are destroyed by the samskaras of samadhi. But in deep sleep, they are very much there, alive and kicking. They still exist and they are very much active. This waking up vritti, vyuthana samskara, is a kind of vritti that lies dormant but works unceasingly towards waking up the sleeper. Like an alarm clock. Surely it is not dissolved in susupti. As when we go out of our homes for work, we remember to come back. That's what Yajnavalkya said. This samskara, memory of coming back home, remains dormant during the working hours in the office. And once at home, we also remember to go back to work again, and so on. These are called the vyuthana samskaras. These are alarm vrittis for waking up, so to say. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad said, Atmana eva ayam jyotisha asti. It sits, palyayate, goes out, karma kurute, works in the office, vipalyate iti, and comes back. It is through the light of the self that the yogi sits, goes out, works and returns. So action is there. Another thing, there are two types of samskaras and impressions that are created on our mind. Jnana samskara, knowledge impression, and kriya samskara, action impression. Jnana samskara means the experience of having knowledge of something. The experience of having knowledge of something. And kriya samskara means the experience of regular practice of the same type of action. Jnana samskara or knowledge impressions create our memory. And kriya samskaras create our reflexes, automatic actions. You do the same thing again and again, and one day it becomes a reflex. And you just do it without thinking. That is why when we remember that we have slept peacefully, it is a memory which is the proof that there was experience in deep sleep. Jnana samskara. Therefore, experience is possible in our deep sleep and is always there. Because deep sleep is not completely inactive and frozen state. There should be no doubt about it. So this is the further explanation to this question whether experience is possible in our deep sleep. If you think that deep sleep is like a fossilized state, then also there is constant change going on. A thing becomes a fossil because of constant changes and action and reactions of heat and other conditions. It is not a frozen thing. Now we move on to the next aphorism, that is number 41. क्षीणवृत्तेः अभिजातस्येव मनेः गृहीत्री ग्रहणग्राह्येषु तत्स्थ तदञ्जनता समापत्तिः. Kshinavrittehe means of the chitta or mind stuff, in which the appearance and disappearance of all varieties of vrittis or thoughts have stopped. But excepting one thought, all other thoughts have stopped. Kshina means subtle, what has become diminished or has become subtle. If you remove all the things and one remains, that in it has become slim. Kshina. It becomes subtle because it reduced and finally eliminated all other thoughts but one thought, one knowledge. Then it has gained a quality like a crystal, very pure, so that it can change its look by the reflection of three things. Grahitri means the self, the subject, Grahana, the mind, the instrument, and Grashya, the external objects. This ability is called Samapatti, just like Samadhi. A bit difference is there. There is subtle difference between the meanings of the word Samadhi and Samapatti. Samapatti is also Samadhi, but the difference is that when one attains Samadhi in such a mind, this mind which has become so pure like this Samadhi is called Samapatti. All other Samadhis are only Samadhis, but this Samadhi is called Samapatti. Then the sutra says, Tatstha means being that, and Tad Anjanata means being colored by that. Anjana means color. The idea is the mind will become so pure that it will take the shape of an object on which it meditates and then manifest the reality of the object, the color of that object. Now please remember that even though the aphorism has compared this pure mind with the colorless crystal, the mind is not at all as hard as the crystal. Mind is a very fluid thing. It is not as hard as the crystal. So whenever we are comparing things, we have to remember these basic fundamental differences. Suppose you have a mind which has become pure like a colorless crystal. It can look like the Atman of the self when in the presence of the self. It can again take the shape of the mind stuff. It can also reflect and manifest any object of any color. Like when you bring a red flower to the crystal will appear to have changed its color into red. You will see the colorless crystal as red crystal. You may remember that we have already discussed 7 types of samadhis. 6 samprajñata samadhis and 1 asamprajñata samadhi. Of these, two initial samprajñata samadhis, savitarka and nirvitarka, are concerning meditation on gross objects. Next two, savichara and nirvichara, are about subtle objects. The fifth one, sananda samadhi, is about the sattva guna of the mind. And the sixth one, sasmita samadhi, is about the I consciousness. In this aphorism, we are learning about a mind which has crossed the first 5 stages of samadhi. In those 5 stages, the mind has acquired samadhi experiences of external objects and then the sattva guna. Now it has also attained experience of samadhi on I consciousness. This is called samapatti, the final of samprajñata samadhi. Now the mind has the experience of the 3 components of this process of meditation: the self, the mind, and the external objects. Now let us recapitulate some points from our earlier studies on the samadhis. We called the 6 different samprajñata samadhis as 6 consecutive milestones, like milestone number 1 to number 6. These 6 are divisions of actually 4 varieties of samadhis in the samprajñata group that we have learned. They are divided based on the objects they take. So that we have already said, that the gross objects, subtle objects, etc. Then we come to the samadhi on the mind itself. The 5th samadhi is called Ananda Samadhi, which is a form of meditation on the instrument of meditation itself. Mind is the instrument for meditation. That is a meditation on the mind itself. It is called Grahana Samapatti, meditation on the instrument. And then now samadhi on the meditator, concentration on the meditation on the meditator. And the 6th one, that is the meditation on the meditator. It is called the Grahitri Samapatti, the meditation on the meditator himself or herself, the subject, the self, the individual self, the Atman. We have discussed in short the information that we have here from aphorism number 41 up to 45. We do not take them up separately because they have been discussed in very great details earlier. Now we move to the aphorism number 46, which has some more information about those samadhis. 6 samprajñata samadhis are called samadhis with seeds, sabija samadhi. And the last one, the samprajñata samadhi, is called nirbija samadhi. Bija means the seed, that is the samskaras, or our past and present stored up impressions. Of them, the first 4 are called sabija samadhi, that is the aphorism number 46, Taiva Sabijaha Samadhi. These concentrations and meditations are with seeds. Taiva means they are surely. They mean the first 4 samadhis are sabija, or having their seeds outside. These first 4 samadhis are, as you know, savitarka, nirvitarka, savichara and nirvichara samadhis. They take their objects of meditation from things outside, vahirvastu vijaha. Outside. Gross outside things are objects of savitarka and nirvitarka samadhis, and subtle outside things are objects of savichara and nirvichara samadhis. We have already learnt about that. Swami Vivekananda makes a very significant observation here, that he says, these do not destroy the seeds of past actions, and thus they cannot give you liberation. But what they bring to the yogi is stated in the later aphorisms. So we move on to the aphorism number 47. Nirvichara vaisharadye adhyatma prasadaha. The intellect or chitta achieves perfection, adhyatma prasada, when the yogi gains expertise in the fourth samadhi called nirvichara samadhi. Nirvichara vaisharadye. When the yogi gains expertise in the fourth samadhi. Now we will be studying 3 aphorisms together from 47 to 49 so that it becomes complete to understand, and also it is easy to understand this. This is the perfection or adhyatma prasada of the intellect. Adhyatma means any ability that helps us to grasp or understand properly something, and prasada means purity. When the intellect or the power of our instrument is free from the impurities of rajoguna and tamoguna, then there is a high proportion of sattva guna in it. The restlessness of rajoguna and the inertia of tamoguna are not there in the intellect, or at least they are not disturbing the intellect of the yogi. Then the sattva guna of the intellect is able to manifest things in their real nature. The intellect achieves the skill to illuminate things in their true nature, and the yogi knows the things as they truly are. This is called adhyatma prasada. Generally, when we learn about a thing, we know it in pages. But this intellect, this adhyatma prasada intellect, knows anything all at once. All at once. This knowledge is not an inferred knowledge derived from the inference based on data that we get from the scriptures. This is a direct knowledge that does not leave a trace of doubt in the mind of the yogi. The records of these knowledges are actually called the scriptures because these are direct knowledges. The knowledge about transcendental things or reality that is derived from inference based on the scriptural data is a general knowledge about the existence of the truth. But this direct knowledge is called Ritambhara Prajna in Sanskrit, the Yogasutras. Ritambhara Prajna means a knowledge which is nothing but the truth, Ritam. This is the difference. Sri Ramakrishna compared such realization with a metaphor or analogy. It is like looking at the city from above a tall monument or tower. Bhagavan Vyasa, the divine commentator of these Yogasutras, quotes an old saying. It says, it can be compared to the experience of a person standing on the summit of a hill and looking down at people at the foothill. This realized soul likewise is able to appreciate the suffering, etc. of the whole lot of people together. This is the saying. Vyasa is quoting in the commentary. That means their experience of suffering, the experience of suffering of these yogis, realized yogis, is collective, not just of a few individuals. Just think of this. Their suffering is so much because they are able to see as if from the mountain top, people on the ground below, and they can see their sufferings together. Who suffers the most? You, I, or a few individuals, or the realized souls? That is why Holy Mother has said, who is the real sufferer? If God has become all, then it is He who is suffering through all. His suffering has no comparison. Aphorism number 48 is an explanation of the realization at the end of the Nirvichara Samadhi, the fourth one. This knowledge is filled with truth of any object. It is truth which is realized directly. And then we have some more information in the next aphorism. Aphorism number 50. This Samadhi Samskara, the resulting impression from the Samadhi, obstructs all other impressions. Tajya Samskaraha Anya Samskara Pratibandhi. This Samskara, the impression that we get from this Samadhi, the fourth Samadhi, Nirvichara Samadhi, that actually obstructs all other impressions. The meaning here is twofold. The impression of the knowledge of the truth about anything abandons other impressions. Actually, what happens is that this prajna, this knowledge, will not only stop the mind from falling into the flow of waking up samskaras or impressions, but it will also help the mind of the yogi to create repeated new samskaras of the same knowledge. So the knowledge increases, and therefore the obstruction to other, the pull to wake us up, to take us back to the material world and worldliness, that is increasingly being obstructed. On the other hand, this prajna will eliminate the pull towards waking up and following the regimes or rules of the states. And also, on the other hand, it will create more and more samskaras of the same knowledge, which will culminate in the asamprajnata samadhi. One hand, it is stopping our pull towards waking up or towards going back to the material life or worldliness. At the same time, it is increasing our pull towards ourself. That is called asamprajnata samadhi. This is a mechanical process about our concentration that I am going to explain through an example. Suppose you have some dirty water in a bucket. The water is constantly stirred or disturbed from top to bottom. It is like our mind. Our samskaras pop up from the bottom and also help create new samskaras on the surface. Now suppose you stop disturbing the water in the bucket and allow it to follow its natural course. After some time you will see that some heavy impurities have settled down at the bottom and some have started floating on the surface. Similar is the case with our mind. As we try to quieten it in meditation, we see many thoughts are coming up on the surface. They are like the floating impurities. We will need to eliminate them. And then by that practice, we will create a habit of not disturbing the deposition at the bottom. We are busy with the floating impurities. They are less harmful, easy to remove, and that is why they are floating. So when you try to quieten the mind, you see many thoughts are coming up. You forgot something in the day to do. You forgot something that you wanted to tell someone. Like that. Very simple things come up. Because they are floating impurities. They are not very heavy and easy to remove. And when you are busy with these things, you are not disturbing the samskaras or the impurities that got settled down at the bottom. These deposited impurities will die out if you don't disturb them. They will die out because of your neglect and due to lapse of time. Now I will try to quote Swami Vivekananda, some ideas he has shared with us about this. That he says, the samadhi which has just been given is the best to be practiced on account of its power of reducing the samskaras. The samskara which will be born out of this sort of concentration will be so powerful that it will hinder the action of the others and hold them in check. The sutra uses the phrase Anya samskara pratibandhi, that is, which is the reason for the closure of all other samskaras or repetitions of the vrittis or thoughts, all other vrittis. The impressions of the samprajñata samadhi are reason for the closure of our mind going to experience the objects, waking up. These samskaras are impressions of true knowledge, which naturally oppose sufferings, kleshas. Now we are going to read the last sutra of this chapter. This chapter is called the Samādhi Pāda, a chapter which deals with the samadhi. Tasyapi nirodhe sarva nirodhat nirbijah samadhi. Tasyapi nirodhe, by the restraint of even this impression. This impression means prajna, which abstracts all other impressions. All being restrained, comes the seedless samadhi. Seedless. Seedless means it won't germinate further. It will not wake you up. That is why it is called seedless. Well, this sutra uses the word nirodha 2 times. Do you recall that in the beginning of the Yogasutras, we read that yoga means samadhi. Then in the very second sutra we have learned that we have to achieve that yoga by means of stopping the mind from all modification. Stopping means nirodha of modifications. But what did we say there? Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. We said nirodha does not mean sarva chitta vritti nirodha. All chitta vrittis have to be removed or stopped initially. If you say initially all chitta vrittis have to be stopped, then 100% success will be achieved in one day. That is not possible. Therefore, we find so many steps, 6 milestones, then the 7th one is the culmination. Patanjali draws its conclusion by repeating the same word, nirodha, 2 times here. He has led us by the hand through the information of how to slowly achieve mastery over reducing the number of the thoughts, the vrittis, the smallest unit of our thoughts is called a vritti. In this sutra, he brought us to a point where where the last trace of the vrittis is removed. What is that last trace? It is, as we have seen in the earlier sutra, the flow of the samskara of knowledge, of one prajna, of one knowledge. That flow is a flow towards the self. So kshina vrittehe, it has become one now. There were billions of vrittis. But at the end what happened? Nirodha. Proper stopping means stopping all the vrittis and keeping one, and by that all the other vrittis have been discarded, ignored. That flows towards our self. This one vritti. All of them tried to reach the goal, tried to achieve the success, but on the way they fell back, dropped, because this one is more powerful. So it rushed. And therefore, this is called kshina, because it has become slim. And since it has become slim, no more competition is there. So it is able to rush, and it has gained strength. So it flows towards ourself. That flow ends here. Tasyapi nirodhe. We have to be careful. Even this flow has to stop. Swami Vivekananda says in one of his poems, Se dharao baddha holo. Even that flow has stopped. Se dhara means flow. Baddha holo has stopped. That flow ends here. Tasyapi nirodhe. When that flow is brought to its end, sarva nirodha. The cessation of all modifications of the mind is achieved. The cessation of all. You have to say all here. We forbade ourselves to understand this all in the beginning. We said there is no all in the yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga sarva chitta vritti nirodha was not said. But here you have to say all, sarva nirodha. Patanjali himself says all modifications of the mind is achieved. Means what? Manaha amani bhavati. The mind became non-mind. Here nirodha means stopping of all modifications of the mind, all. The impression of waking up is also lost forever. We are talking about Samadhi. Please do not mix it up with Vedantic realization. There we do not realize the self through Samadhi. We realize the self through Vichara. In the waking state, while we are awake, not in Samadhi. Because Atman is available in all the states, not only in Samadhi. So the impression of the waking up is also lost forever here. Because the mind is not there, who will wake up? And after this point, there is no field for the vrittis. They are now an extinct species. The vrittis are now an extinct species. Sarva nirodha, even the last flow is stopped. According to the Sankhya philosophies, at this point, when the chitta ceases to exist, when the mind ceases to exist, the Purusha, the individual self, realizes its separation from the Prakriti and is established in its real nature, Swarupa. So, the mind ceases to exist and the Purusha realizes its separation from the Prakriti and is established in its real nature. Do you remember that? In the beginning we studied that in the aphorism. Tada drashtuhu swarupe avasthanam. Then the drashta, the seer, the self will be established in its real nature, Swarupa, and this word is used here. The Purusha is called Shuddha Mukta Purusha, a fully independent, free individual soul. This is called liberation. This is called salvation, freedom. But the Purusha realizes that he or she is an individual, free individual soul, not one with the reality. That happens in case of non-dual Vedanta. So, independent, free individual soul, Mukta Purushaha, Shuddha Mukta Purushaha, fully free. Shuddha means here free. You don't need to make it pure further. It is just free. So, we just see what Swami Vivekananda said, just a very short thing before I end this. This chapter will end with this. And Swami Vivekananda said that the first Patanjali teaches us the meaning of these chitta vrittis. Secondly, he teaches us the best way to block them. And thirdly, how to make one wave so strong as to conquer all other waves, fire eating fire as it were. And when only one remains, it will be easy to eliminate that also. Now you have only one to remove. And when that is gone, this samadhi or concentration is called seedless. It leaves nothing, and the soul is manifested just as it is in its own glory. Then alone we know that the soul is not a compound. Then alone it is not a compound. Knowledge is not a compound. Consciousness is not a byproduct. It is the only element, eternal, simple in the universe. And as such, it cannot be born, it cannot die. It is immortal, indestructible, the ever-living essence of intelligence. We have come to the end of this chapter, first chapter, Samādhi Pāda. Next time I will try to summarize this whole thing in a model of yogic meditation. Thank you very much. And we will end it with the chanting of Om once. Om.